Hi, this is Lori from CustomizedWalls.com and one of the moderators for the interior design community on Google+. We have a really, really important show for you today, and I don't want to stress that enough because I know that many of you designers work in a local area, and conquering Google Local is going to be probably one of the most important things that you can do for your business. And so we have brought one of the premier experts on Google Local. Mike, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
My name is Mike Blumenthal. My official title, I run 3 companies, my own consulting firm, blumenthals.com, which works around various aspects of local. I am a managing partner at Local U, which is a training organization, and I'm a founder of a review management, feedback management product called Get 5 Stars. And my title is CCH, and that stands for Chief Cat Herder.
Ooh, that sounds amazing. I know that we have a ton of people who really want to know a lot about local, and many designers, they are a local business. They have, usually their clients come from a local area. We have a certain amount of designers who are celebrity designers who travel the country and, they design large homes of celebrities, but we also have, your local interior designer, and most people would pick them. And so I've noticed over the course of the past few years as Google Plus, Google Local has changed. It's gone through stages. Can you tell people a little bit about the stages that it's gone through and what they can do if they registered for Google Local, they don't know if they have Google Local, what do they do to start off with?
Sure. So Google Local started in 2004, and that was, for me, an epiphany when I first saw it on the front page of Google. I literally threw away 9 yellow page books that I needed to cover my local market. I was, at that time, marketing websites and web design. And it became clear to me that this was the future, and obviously the future took about 5 or 6 years to catch up with me. But now, when you do research, probably, depending on the demographic, but people under 40, probably 40% of them look first at Google or some other local site when they're looking for a new business. So Google has evolved from a business listing product in 2004. It merged to Google Maps in 2006, and then became Google Places in 2009, which was both a consumer-focused marketing effort as well as a small business effort to attract small businesses into their dashboard. And then when Google Plus came out in 2011, they announced that Google Places was going to merge into Google Plus. And that merge has been going on for the last several years, and it's nearing an end. We are somewhere near the point where you will, at some point, hopefully soon, have a consolidated interface to deal with your Google Local business listing. But for now, there's 2 places on Google where you can manage your listing. They essentially send data to the same spot, so it doesn't matter. There's google.com/places and the plus.google.com/dashboard, both of which allow you to manage your local listing at Google. And they're merging, and so sometime in the near future they will become a single interface. Those of you who got involved in Google Local several years ago, you were in what was called the old dashboard, which came out in 2007, and over the last 6 or 8 months, people have been migrated from that dashboard to the new dashboard, which has caused some pain and hardship for people, but that's almost done, so hopefully it'll be a rational environment going forward.
Yes, I actually noticed it pretty quickly when I started on Google Plus, and I was curious. I noticed that the Google Plus, there would be a Google Plus web link underneath an interior designer. When you type in your local listing, interior designer, usually GPS knows where you are. Google knows where you're located. It gives you local results, and there was a Google Plus page under all the websites, and I clicked on it, and it was their local page, and I didn't really know much about it. Now, is it possible to have set up 2? Is it possible? What are the problems you typically are seeing people struggle with Google Local?
Yeah, the first is that unlike so Google thinks about entities in the world. They're moving towards this sort of entity search, right, where there's people, which are people who've logged into Google Plus. There's places, which are local listings, and there's things, which in Google Plus are businesses, brands, events, that sort of stuff. And so Google doesn't automatically create brand or event pages. They do automatically create a local page for you. So one of the big problems people have in Google Plus is they think they're a brand, they think they're a company page, they create a page, and Google already has auto-created a page for you. So typically, you don't want to use a brand or company page. You want to use your local page. At least most store location-based businesses do, because that's going to show up in search more. So the best thing to do is to be sure that you create a local page. It will then verify your already existing local
That
listing.
is a huge point, and I think I want to make sure people remember that, because I get asked quite often if designers should start a brand page, and you're saying
so,
no.
Well, obviously, we're in a business where there's a million right answers, and I'm saying that generally speaking, a storefront is going to be better served by a plus page for local rather than a plus page for brand, because that plus page for local is going to show on the main page of Google more, and that's where most of the business is, on the main page of Google. Now, if you're a 5-location business or you do business nationally as your first effort, then you would probably consider a brand page in addition to your local pages, but only if you were multi-location or only if you were doing a lot of national business. But for a purely local business, I would stick with the local page and make that my headquarters at Google+.
Now, what if you started out as a one business, but then you have multiple locations? A lot of our designers might have a business partner that works in a different location than them, and so they're both the same business, operating as the same business, but there are 2 locations. Is there a way you can have the local entities, the 2 local entities, and then the brand page? Is that what you would suggest?
Yeah, well, again, with 2 local pages, I probably wouldn't go with a brand page even yet, because 2 is manageable. When you need a brand page when you get so many locations, you can't manage the pages, right, with social content. For the most part, if you got 1 or 2 or even 3 locations, I would stay away from a brand page if each of those pages serves a local market, and then share from one page to another, not cross-post the same content, but share the content from one to another. And I think that's going to serve you better than a brand page. It takes a lot of work to get a brand page to show on Google search. You got to have a lot of followers, you got to have a lot of interaction, and it's much easier to get a local page to show. So unless there's some, like I said, compelling reason to go to a brand page, I wouldn't. Now, if you have 2 designers that are functioning out of their home offices, each, in theory, would be eligible for a Google. One thing about Google Local, there's more rules than just Google Plus, right? So not only do you need to comply with the Google Plus rules about, decency and not spamming, you also have to comply with a whole set of guidelines called the Places Guidelines, which dictate who can and can't have a local listing. So one of the things you want to do is be sure to read those guidelines and not violate them, because if you've got a YouTube channel associated with your local listing or other valuable content, and your local listing gets taken down because of abuse, you're going to lose all that work. So anyways, you can work-at-home businesses are eligible for local listings. Typically in that situation, Google asks and requires that you hide the address, because typically you're not taking visitors at those addresses on a regular basis. So you're able to get verified at each of those offices, but typically if you're not forward-facing, customer-facing, you'd want to hide those addresses. So you could have 2 in that situation.
Now,
you don't want to be faking it. That's the other thing. Google does a lot of phone verification. They'll call location. They'll ask some question. They won't announce it's Google. They'll say, maybe you tried to fake a listing at your Aunt Tilly's house, and they'll say, well, gee, what's the nearest bus stop, or what's the nearest McDonald's, and you're not going to be able to answer it, and you're going to lose that listing and possibly some of your other ones.
Ooh, yeah, that's not good. Jeffrey, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. What I wanted to ask is, let's just say a prospect or a consumer is looking for a interior designer, and do they just go to the Google page, or do they actually go to a Google local listing page? Do they specify interior designer, or do they specify interior designer zip code? I'm trying to really understand
Right.
how they find interior
Mo
designers.
Sure. So Google knows where the business is located, and to a large extent, they know where the searcher is located, right? Particularly in mobile, they have a lot of local context. They know exactly where you are. But on a desktop, they've made a pretty good guess. So if you type, I haven't done it today, but if you type in interior designer, even without a geomodifier, if you go to Google and you type in interior designer, Google is likely to look at your location and deliver up a series of both organic pages and local pages as a result, right? Because they're assuming they know where you're located. So most searchers either will type in interior designer at the main page of Google, or they will type in interior designer my city, and Google will deliver some mix of organic pages plus pinned results, which are the local results. So, and that's where most of the local information is seen. Very few searchers move beyond that front page of Google, because when you do that, when you get those pins and then you mouse over the pins, Google will bring up a huge page to the right about that business, describing, you know, their location, their phone number, their web page, competitors, their most recent post, where they've got reviews. And so it's not necessary for the searcher to leave the home page of Google. So most benefit to local businesses and most calls and visits to websites are coming from local searches on the front page of Google. Now, once you get off the front page of Google, what you then see is there's a link on the front page of Google to your plus page, so people might visit that. There's a link into Google Maps, so people might visit that. But the rate of visitation one link away from the home page drops way off. Now in mobile, that's a little different. In mobile, a lot more people are using the Google Maps app, and there, you know, you're going to see a little different experience, but a number of people are still using browsers in mobile as well. So most of the activity these days occurs on the front page of Google search, and much lower percentage gets out to your Google Plus page or your Google Maps listing. But if you've filled in your information in your Google Places dashboard or your Google Plus dashboard fully and accurately, your information will look good at all of those places. So you want to be sure it looks good at each of those places. So for example, on the Plus page, you want to be sure you've added a nice cover photo and a decent profile photo, because you're in a business that's very visually oriented. On the main page, you want to be sure your profile photo is selected, and possibly you may, if you have a local space, a walk-in space, you may even want to hire a business view professional to do a three-dimensional view of your interior space that Google will show on the main page of search. Again, this is about what I call conversion optimization. You want to look good. You're in a business where looking good's important. You also want to be sure to get reviews not just at Google, but at third-party sites that Google is showing on that search. So you go into the local search, you go to the front page of Google, you type in interior designers plus your city or interior designers, and you see where Google is looking for reviews. Maybe it's maybe certainly there's going to be reviews at Google, but maybe they're going to be looking at yp.com, maybe they're going to be looking at city search, maybe they're going to be looking at some interior design page. You want to be sure that you're getting reviews at the sites that Google is looking at for your search in your city.
That is so huge. That's really, really important. Yeah. We actually had a question come in from the audience. Rose asks, she already created a Google Plus page as Rose Dossel, her name. She wants to create a local page as Rose Dossel again, or can she create a local page as Rose Dossel again, or is she eligible to create RMD Designs LLC, her business name, in the local listings?
I'm sorry, you broke up when you were talking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She has a personal page at Google Plus?
Yeah, I think she has a brand page, but she also wants to know if she can do a local page or a local page with a different name.
Well, the rule in local is that the name has to be the name you are known in the real world. So you can create a if you already have a brand page, you can create a local page, or Google may already have a local page about your business. But the requirement, the rule, in the brand page, you can call yourself anything you want within certain constraints on Google+. But in the local page, you have to use the name that you are known as in the local market. You can use one additional descriptor. So if your name is Rose Design in the local market, you've got to use that on your local page. And you could say Rose Design dash interior or some other descriptor, but it has to be your name. So yes, you can have a second page, but it's got to be your real name.
Now, what if we also had someone ask on Facebook, they said that they created a local page a long time ago, and then they said it disappeared. So what do you think might have happened there?
Well, disappeared, Google, did it disappear from Google Search? Did it disappear from Google Maps? Did it disappear from their dashboard? I'm not sure what the question means.
I think he said he meant it that it disappeared from his dashboard. He couldn't find his local business looking at Google Plus or google.com/local.
So if he's in his dashboard and it's not there, then it needs to be either reclaimed or else somebody else claimed it, or it's claimed in another account. A lot of times what I see is people claimed it in an old Gmail account or some other account they don't remember, and Google then converted it to the new type of page, and you can't get access to it. In that situation, you need to call Google support. You go to Google, the place of support, and click on the Contact Us button. Google will call you back and help you get that squared away. If it isn't claimed by anybody, if it isn't verified by anybody, you can then go into google.com/local/places, and you can then attempt to verify it. Now, when you do it, and that's really what you should probably do, when you do that, you'll get a message that you can verify it or that it's already verified by somebody else. If it's verified by somebody else, you're asked if you want to send them an email. You can then send them an email. If they don't respond in 2 weeks, then go to Google Places Support, click on the Contact Us button, have Google call you and help you figure it out.
Okay, that's great. So they're pretty good about getting back to you if you need it.
Very good. They call back within a minute. Again, Google support is only on local locations. It's not for brand pages or company pages. It's only for location pages, but they're very good. They have both email support for after hours, and they have phone support during U.S. business hours. So from 9 a.m. East Coast time to 6 p.m. West Coast time.
Okay.
Outside those hours, you can do email support. And if you're out of the country, you can get English language support by setting your browser and your Google preferences to American English.
Now, I've actually followed Rose a little bit with her problem, and she actually said she's tried to reach out where she wants to set up the Google Local, and she doesn't hear back from them. She doesn't get a message. Either she said she isn't getting the postcard or she isn't getting the phone call. I'm not sure.
So
I've tried to help her a couple times.
So Google has a number of security systems in place to prevent people from creating bogus local listings. Right? This isn't speaking to Rose in particular. This is in a general sense. So, they want to drive people through a process, but they have levels of trust. And if they don't trust a listing, a lot of times what will happen is you won't get a postcard because they don't trust the listing. Now, sometimes the postcards get lost, and if you're a legitimate listing, again, if you've waited your 2 weeks and you didn't get a postcard, you can contact support and they will help you through that process. But it's important to realize that Google really only wants real location, real local businesses, because they're going to be sending people to it by maps. They want that experience to be good. So if you're making up a location,
your mic is breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry. Is that better?
No, it's. Are you guys hearing that same mic problem?
Lots of problems there.
I did hear what you were saying, but it just wasn't giving us feedback for some reason. I know Google's been having a little bit of a problem with audio, I think, and even video today on Hangouts, but it's probably not your fault.
Google has various security systems in place to minimize bogus listings. If you're having trouble verifying and you are a real local business, then once you've requested the card, if you contact support, they will help you.
Okay. The other thing that we wanted to know was Actually, Leslie had a question. I just muted other people so it could maybe give you that bandwidth. But I wanted to ask you what you mentioned about Google Local Maps pages or Google Maps pages and how they're different than Google Local. Can you tell us a little bit about where those pages might be found, and are they actually separate pages, or are they the same page? You just have to maintain them and they go to different places?
So Google views local as a data index, much like they view the web index. They store every web page in their index, they store every YouTube video in a different index, and they store local data in a third index. The index has inputs and outputs. So that local data can go to a Google Glass, it can go to a Google Plus page, it can go to a Google Map result, it can go to Google Car, it can go to Google TV. That local information Google syndicates across all of their software platforms where local is relevant. So when you see a local result, whether it's on the homepage of Google or a Google Plus page or Google Maps, it's drawing from this local index. So that's the output. Google takes this local, canonical local listing and distributes it across hardware and software wherever they perceive the user would find it of value. Then there's the inputs to local. That's where you as a business owner or you can give Google additional information. Google gets local information. They buy it from the list suppliers like Express Update or from Axiom. They scrape it from the yellow page companies like YP.com. They scrape it from your website. So they know about your local business from their scraping across the web. And that's how they create these listings in the local index even before you claim it. Now, if you claim it and then verify it, they will then give your data a little bit of preference over their other data sources. But one of the input locations to this is the Google Places dashboard. Another input location is the Plus dashboard. And a third input location is MapMaker. So you've got the output of this index, which goes to any consumer-facing Google product that has local data. You have the input at Google, which is Google Places, Google Plus, or MapMaker. Again, it all goes, it's kind of like when you chew your food, it all goes to the same place. Same with local data. It all gets stored in this canonical local listing, and then Google puts it out wherever they need to put it out. And sometimes if they don't trust your input, let's say you gave them a bogus name or something, they'll overwrite it with input that they trust more.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think that, I mean, I notice on myself when I look through the listings, a lot of the pages are unclaimed. So this seems to be a big thing. And does that mean that they never set up Google Local? Is that what that means?
Well, it's a little hard to tell if a page is claimed at this moment in time because pages in the old dashboard don't show as verified. So you don't know if a page looks unverified, whether it's unverified or whether it's just in the old dashboard at this point in time. So the best information is about 20% of all locations across the world have verified their listings. So that leaves a lot unverified.
Yeah, yeah. I think designers are really struggling with it. I think that you have some great resources. I know you're limited on time, so we told people that you're only going to be here for a half an hour. But I wanted to make sure that all the designers out there that are watching now or watching later, that you can get in touch with Mike as a resource. He actually will have different websites that he'll put into our event stream, and then I'll later copy them into the YouTube description, where you can go and ask questions or possibly even hire Mike or one of the people he knows to help you get set up with the Google logo if you're really still struggling, because it's a really important thing. One person did ask, where is that phone number if you just can't get this? Could you repeat that, where they could get that phone number?
Yeah, let me get you the URL, okay?
Yeah.
Give me just a second. If you go to Google and type in Google Places Support, it's not actually a phone number, it's a callback system. So you go to Google Places Support, and then you click in the upper right, there's a Contact Us button. Here's the link right here, and they will call you back. Here is the link. Sorry for looking elsewhere for a moment, but there's the link. Can you share that?
Yep, I will share those later with the audience and then with the YouTube channel. Don't worry about that.
Support.google.com/business, and then if you click in the upper right, on the Contact Us button. There are there's some like wizards that'll help you solve different problems there, so you can drive through some of the wizards. But in the end, if you need to get a hold of support, you need to click on the Contact button.
Well, we really do appreciate you being here. I don't want to take up more time than we're allotted, so I'm going to keep it short. But I do have a couple more quick questions before you take up.
Yeah,
one person asked.
I have till 4:45. So.
Oh, good. One person asked, what if you have like a listing? We heard this a couple times, that if you have a listing here in the United States and a listing in a different country, you have multiple locations, but one is in a different country. Is that something that you would handle through Google Local? I know you said two different designers might be in two different places, but does that matter if they cross country codes?
Not really. Google, if you, let's say you have a design firm in Buffalo and Toronto. There's two different countries, right? You can claim them in the same dashboard, and there'll be the similar verification process, either by phone or by postcard, depending on the level of trust. If you're claiming a listing with a different language, but your dashboard's in English, Google will translate the categories to be appropriate to the user in the other language automatically. So you don't even really need to worry about translation. So
that's amazing.
It's not a problem. You can just go to google.com/places or plus.google.com/dashboard and create local listings either place in any country, as long as it's truly a local listing, and as long as Google trusts it, they'll allow you to verify it and they'll display it.
What if you have a name change? Is that something that you've come across a lot?
Yeah, so name changes, moving, and phone number changes, and even call tracking numbers are all problematic in local. The reason is that Google ranks your business. One of the ranking factors is sort of prominence of your business, and they determine prominence of your business entity by looking across the web and finding all the places where your business is mentioned. They see the phone number, they associate it back with your business at Google. So that's known as, so your name, address, and phone number are the three things that Google uses to associate that reference to you back to your business. It's known as a citation, right? So this NAP, or name, address, and phone number, if it isn't consistent, then Google can't associate the information back with you. So changing your phone number is really hard. Changing your name is sort of hard. Moving is the death knell. It just really requires rigor to go through the whole local ecosystem and get it changed, not just at Google, not just at your website, not just at the post office and the phone books and your utility companies, but at every place where your business was mentioned on the web, it's got to be changed. And you normally start that job by changing it first at the top level providers like Express Update, which is InfoUSA, Localese, which is Newstar, and Axiom, which is My Business Data Manager or something. You change it there, and then you go to Yelp and Bing and Yahoo and change them there, Super Pages, and work your way down the list. And essentially you have to, ultimately change it at 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 places, as well as the top tier directories, for Google to be able to collate this information and understand that you're one business, not two businesses. So it's a problem.
It's a problem. Okay, I kind of thought that might be. I'm going to unmute Leslie. Leslie, you have some questions too, because Leslie does social media for a living, and she has a lot of clients who are designers. Leslie, if you want to hit the unmute button on the red microphone at the top, you should be able to go. Just click on that red mic at the top of the screen. There you go.
All right, great. Well, all of your information is so helpful. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here with everybody. And I think for the designers that would be watching, I'll just be a speaker on their behalf. For them, do you agree that the main benefit of claiming your local page, because in our community, the problem for designers is that nobody has any time. So all of these things for them just feel like, oh my God, more time. So how important do you think it is to their business to actually go out and claim their local page this weekend? Like, what would be the main business benefits for them? Just 1, 2, 3 bullet point.
Right. So Google Plus is many things, right? Verifying your business is just level one. Obviously, there's social posting, all these other things. But claiming your business and contributing accurate data to Google is issue one. You want your customers to be able to drive to you, find you on the maps, call you, and you need to be sure that Google has that information correct. So the first issue with verifying your business at Google is being sure that they're being fed accurate information and that the pin is in the right spot, because one part of this verifying process, you can move the pin so people can get driving directions. So that's a critical in today's world. The second is...
On that pin piece, for designers that might be watching that have no clue yet what you're talking about, because maybe they haven't actually, gone out onto a Google local page, like Lori or all of us have. So for everybody watching, what Mike is saying is that when you go out to that local page on Google, you're going to see literally a map of your town, and you will be able to put a dot on that page. You'll be able to move your cursor, and the little red marker will literally dot right where you live or right where your business is located,
right.
And it'll start. So is that correct, Mike?
Yeah. So when you're in the process of verifying, they give you a little screen in the verification dashboard that gives you that opportunity to move that dot so it's accurate. Google's mapping system, big data is a estimation of reality. It's never reality, right? So they take the earth, they layer the roads over it, they layer the numbers of the plots over that, they layer the businesses over that, and if there's an error in any of that, your business, the pin that represents your business might be in the wrong spot. You are given an opportunity to, like you said, to move that pin to the right spot, so again, searchers can find you. So that's issue one, is just being sure that your basic geodata is correct and that your basic phone and website data is correct, because Google looks and tries to figure out your website, but they maybe have it wrong or maybe they didn't get it right, whatever. So the other reason is for, like I said, conversion optimization. When you go to that first page of Google and you type in interior designers and you scroll over those listings, they pop out to the right a picture about that business. If some customer has uploaded a picture, perhaps from your location, but it's a terrible picture, that's what Google's going to show. And you really want control over your image, then verifying your listing and uploading 3 or 4 aesthetically pleasing profile photos is important for that front page, so that you don't look
right.
unprofessional.
Exactly. One point that I'll share here with the designers that are watching, just that, Mike, you're so far above probably most of the community here in what you know, is that if you go out to your local page, friends, and what Mike is saying is that it's really when the consumer types in interior designer, I'm in Houston, let's say just Houston, and then in front of the consumer pops up the organic or natural listings, and then also the listings that are on the map. Probably all of you have seen that. So when Google pops up the listings that are on the map, that often now come before the actual organic search rankings. If you're not there, you're nowhere, or your competitor is there. And in addition to that, I don't know what's happening there. I have something strange on my screen. But anyway, in addition to, there we go. In addition to that, I still have something strange going on my screen. Sorry, everybody. But in addition to that, what Mike is saying is that your customers can actually go in on your local page and upload their reviews of your business. Right, Mike? Is that what you're saying?
They can actually upload photos of your business.
Exactly, photos, reviews. So if you haven't...
So take your mouse, Leslie, take your mouse down and cursor over J. Allen Design there real quickly.
I'm screen sharing my local listing right here, and this is...
Okay, all right.
So
the
cursor to the right.
We're talking about.
Yeah, there it is.
This local
cursor
page
to the right,
right here.
And notice how the right on the right. I don't want you to go in. I want you to stay right on that page for me for a second.
There we go.
Back for just a sec.
You want me to stay back there?
Yeah, I want you to go back one page and just cursor over the local listing. Don't click on it. Just rest on it, right? So see the arrow? Click on that arrow to the right of it. There you go. So.
Yep.
Google's going to show as much information as they have about you right on the front page of Google. So the photo at the top is important that it looks nice, right? And if you have reviews wherever, at Who's and Merchant Circle at Google, it's important that those are, speak well of you. It's important that you have your hours in accurately and your phone numbers accurate. So the benefit of claiming this is so that Google can represent you correctly. Now, would you type in J. Ellen Design, Manchester, New Hampshire, real quick, just as a brand search? So when you do a brand search, Google's going to give you a half a page above the fold for free, right? If you give them enough stuff, if you give them enough pages, right? So Google's giving you 4 or 5 pages from the website, that little panel, your Facebook page, your Yelp page, other pages about you. Google's prepared to give that to you. And my attitude is, if Google's going to give you a half page for free, when was the last time you ever got a half page in the Yellow Pages for free? Never.
That's true.
And
that's
so
really...
you want this to look good,
Yeah.
Another point for the designers watching, and so let's say that you're a very senior designer in your area, and there is maybe a brand new designer who's just started, designing out of school. If they have the really exciting Google local listing, friends on this chat, and yours, even though you're the more senior, much more experienced designer in your local area, but you haven't claimed your local listing, when the consumer types in interior designer New Hampshire and they see one beautifully filled out local page and one that's not, and they don't know the difference between the two of you, the one they're more likely to click on is obviously, I think, the one that's more beautifully filled out, right? So if you're not claiming your local page, you are losing in that really kind of competitive opportunity to be chosen by the local consumer who might be seeking your design services.
I agree. And Mike, there's one more thing I wanted to mention too. I have noticed, because I've looked at Google Local in many different cities I've been in, and quite often it doesn't take your house reviews. It doesn't usually have any reviews if you haven't gotten any. So they're not, for interior designers, they're really not populating reviews from other sites as far as I can see. So if you don't have reviews, you have nothing. It just has that Google Plus page. But if you do have reviews, it changes. And the designers I have reviewed, because they've asked me to, and I don't mind reviewing any of you designers out there, so just let me know. But if the designers that have gotten reviews, they've gone way up in search. Like they were 60th and now they're 3rd. So does it really make a huge difference to have that local page and get the reviews and ask your clients for those reviews?
So there's a bunch of questions you asked. One question is what are the ranking factors, and are reviews a ranking factor? The other is you asked if they're a conversion factor. I think reviews do play some role in ranking. I don't think it's the principal ranking factor, but it's an important ranking factor. But given Google thinks reviews are very important. If on many searches you'll see the word review on the page 10, 11, 12, 15 times. Clearly Google thinks it's important. If they're going to put that word on the page 15 times, it's because they think it's important. So I think I would agree that getting reviews at Google and elsewhere is important. Although even more important in my mind than getting reviews are 2 things. One is running a great business. That wasn't the middle finger. That was the first finger. It looked like a middle finger. I apologize. Running a great business. And 2, getting feedback from your customers. Because your customers, knowing who your happy customers are, who your unhappy customers are, understanding why they're happy, why they're unhappy, and then asking those happy customers to leave you reviews. So, and the reason for that is that you want to fix whatever's wrong, because if there's something wrong, it's going to show up and you're going to get that negative review. So you don't want to just ask your happy customers. You want to ask every customer what they think of you, and then make everybody happy by solving their problems, and then driving them to review sites, Google and other sites, because Google in the right panel will show other sites. In fact, on that JLN search, there was reviews at Merchant Circle and Who's, or Who's, or whatever it's called, and there were none at Google. So Google will show reviews from around the web. So I think, and reviews from around the web are also a ranking factor.
Right, right. Now, what if this person like you've mentioned this before, but if they set up Google Local but they don't have that email address anymore, that seems to be a question I get a lot. Or they've set up two different, on Google Plus, it seems like I run into this all the time that people have set up tons of different pages, and they don't remember always their email to get into those pages, and they might have even set up a couple of different local pages and just use slight different variations of names. Is it easy to delete when you've done something like this?
It's complicated because, so here's the first rule of dealing with digital is create a good organizational system, organize all of your digital assets, your logo, your photos, your URLs for your social sites, your descriptions. Get all that stuff in one spot, and your passwords and usernames, right? There's an infographic I did that describes the process in a big sense. Let me just paste it in here. So you really want to track this stuff. It really gets to be problematic expecting a company like Google to keep track of it for you. If you've truly lost your logins for your local page, if your page had been claimed in the old dashboard, it's not a huge problem. You'll be able to reclaim it in the new dashboard. If when you go to claim it in the new dashboard, you get a message that your page is previously claimed, you will also get a message that says, do you want to send an email asking to become a manager of that page? Say yes, and then check all of your email accounts and see which one got the email. If none of the accounts you control get the email, then you have to call Google support and see if they will help you. Sometimes they'll give you a clue who the email is going to. Sometimes they will just help you convert it because under that address it hasn't been managed in 6 months or a year, and they know it's inactive and they believe you. So, so the step is go in to the dashboard, attempt to verify it. If you get that message, after you type in your phone, it's already claimed, proceed, ask for an email to be sent, check all your email addresses, find out which account it's in. If you truly can't find it after 2 weeks, go to Google support and see what kind of help they'll give you.
Now, in this vein, how important is it that you have the actual business owner or a professional that they've hired to set up these pages for them? Because I would assume that a lot of our interior designers have staff, and they might have, employee set up their Google Plus local page, and now they don't have access to that employee's email, or they don't have that employee working for them anymore. What would you tell those designers?
Yeah, so what typically when I'm dealing with a client or when I'm training other SEOs, typically I recommend that an account be set up in an email address either owned by the business or that the SEO is able to give to the business if their relationship were to end. The business needs to view their listing at Google and every place around the internet as one of their assets. And no sooner would they leave the keys to their store around than they should give control of this stuff to somebody else without having access. So I think it's just laziness. They're afraid, whatever. They let somebody else do it. That person dies. They move on. They get pissed because they got fired. Hey, it's like you gave them the keys and you have to go change the locks. It's a problem, So my suggestion is however you do it, make sure you have access and control. Google Plus and Google Places allow you to assign somebody else as a manager. So if the SEO wants to be a manager of your account or the employee wants to be a manager, you can add them as a manager.
Oh, that's great. So make sure you set it up yourself, or you have a professional set it up, and then you can let the employee be a manager, but you don't let them own it and have started it for you, and now you're in big trouble.
And keep track of the email address and the password, so 3 years from now you can find it.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you? Oh, sure, Leslie, you go.
Lori, I have one last question before Mike has to go.
Sure, go ahead.
Mike, just in case anybody joined us a little bit late, something that always comes up for me, and I know you covered it like right when we first started, but just to make sure that everybody's clear, there are many entities in Google. So Google Local Places is one entity. A Google brand page is another entity. A Google community, like the interior design community here, is another entity. And your your Google profile is another entity. So we're really, on Google, there are 4 really basic entities. Are there even more than that?
Well, at the highest level, it's people, which are your personal profile, places, which are location-based, and things. So under things, things gets fragmented into a lot of things. There's events, there's communities, there's brands, there's online companies, you know, and you can have as many thing pages as you want. You can have one location page per location, and there's some exceptions to that, and you can have one persona page per login. So there are some rules, but so it's people, places, and things, and then amongst the things there's a bunch of different kinds, but it isn't clear how Google's gonna parse those out in the future.
So would you say that for the designers watching, just to finalize, that if they have like 0 time, they should create the personal profile where they share whatever they want to, and then they should claim their Google local? Would those be the first 2 things you would recommend?
Just as a side note, they don't even have to have a personal profile to have a Google local page. You can do it just with a Gmail, with an account, not without an upgraded account. Okay. But yeah, those are probably. But Google's going to nag you to create a personal page. So yeah, create a personal page and verify your local listing, and add enough content to the local listing that it looks pretty.
Okay, so
it's hard for designers. They have great pictures. We're very visual industry, so getting the pictures shouldn't be an issue. I have one more question that I don't know if this is something you follow, but I definitely read David Amerlin's book, and I followed a little bit of what he talks about with semantic search, and he does go a little bit into Google Local where he talks about reviews and not all reviews being the same, and that somebody that is a real authority in the web as giving you a review might mean more than the average everyday person giving you a review on Google Local. And I wondered if that is something that you find also, and if you think designers should be going after not just their customers for reviews, but maybe also their vendors.
Also their what? Sorry.
Vendors. They work
vendors.
with many different manufacturers.
Right. So there's several issues in the question. Like right now, social search has not really made its way to the front page of Google, with the exception that people who are in each other's circles will see reviews from each other more than they'll see reviews from others, right? So if I'm your friend and you've left a review and I do a search of a company that you've reviewed, I will see your review that way. But in the new Google Maps is very review focused and very social oriented, and the ranking of business is very much predicated upon top reviewers. So in Google Maps, which is sort of what Google's going to be on their main page, 2 years or 3 years from now, top reviewers are important. There's this issue, though, that businesses, there's 2 kinds of reviews. There's the ones you have time to ask for personally, and then there's the issue of being able to integrate it into your business processes in a way that you can just do it without thinking about it, right? And I think that a business needs to think a little bit about both. Once a month, maybe ask a vendor to leave a review, or once a month, ask a really good customer to leave a review. But the rest of the time, I believe that the process should sort of run on autopilot, and you just put an email address in and it should just go. And given that, I designed a product that does that. So sorry to be pitching here, but I built a product that allows your review management and feedback system to run on autopilot, because most businesses don't have time and they don't really want to be messing with this, like they don't want to be messing with their places pages. So my sense is that the ideal review process would be the occasional ask of a really good customer, and then for the most part this automated system that provides you and your customers an ongoing opportunity to leave you feedback and leave reviews. That happens sort of automatically. So with that, I will say goodbye, and I gave you my email address. And
yeah, I'll make sure all of this gets into the stream and into the YouTube stream, because great. I know people are going to be contacting you because this is an issue across the board for designers. I see it many times. So does Leslie. Thank you so much, Mike. We really appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeffrey, you might want to unmute yourself too, because we'll probably have less feedback. So what did you guys think? I mean, we're not off air, but we want to hear what you think about Google Local. How has this interview changed some of the processes that you would now recommend, Leslie?
You go ahead, Leslie.
Well, for me, some of you know that I have a second business called Messages of Hope that I'm launching this year. And I do have claimed that local page. So it does come up in Google search now when you search on the keyword hope or messages hope or any combination of that. So I can tell you from firsthand experience that claiming your local page, as Mike is saying, is extremely important. And Lori, I have to give you credit for leading me to that discovery in the very first place a year and a half ago or so. When you first started talking to me about it, I did not realize how important it really was in Google search, but I can say for everybody watching, just go out right now and claim your local page. And Lori, do you have the URL of that handy there? I can find it if you don't, but where people can literally just click on, because there is a clickable URL from Google that just Google Local Claim Your Listing, and that way everybody can just click on that.
I will make sure that I put that link in the description also, because that's a really easy link. You can go over there and see if you have the local listing. Some people, you might have it. It's one of those things that you might have done 5 years ago, 10 years, like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and you forgot about it. And so Google migrated, as Mike said, they migrated those listings now. And so you might actually have a Google Plus local page and you don't even know about it, and you haven't reclaimed it and you're not using it anymore. So it's really important to see if you already have one before you start creating one, and see if you can, claim the local listing you might already have. The other interesting thing that I want to say is that we just brought up the screen share that I did for the Google Plus Local, and I shared this with Leslie a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and Leslie, we're not the same people not reviewed back then, a year and a half ago. I mean, that just shows that no designers are getting reviews on Google Local at all. It's just not happening. So you have the fact that it's for sure the first stuff you see on the #1 page, page 1 on Google, and there's a link to it, and there's nothing on it. There's no reviews, there's no pictures, or there might be a picture, there might be one review. It shows that there's a huge opportunity. For me, it shows that there's a huge opportunity for you to stand out. That if no one is doing it, and you all of a sudden start to really take ownership of it and throw on pictures and get reviews from your clients and from your vendors, all of a sudden your stuff is going to stand out because you have 30 reviews and no one around you has any.
Exactly. I mean, you can just claim that real estate, and like Mike said, it's really powerful that Google is giving you basically free space on the first page of Google Organic Search for your business. And
for most designers, that's what you want, right? Is like the most designers, they want, when you type in interior designer, they want their local customers to find them. That's really what they want. Most designers are getting their business from local clients, right?
Right.
So it's so important, and I think in the interior design industry, in some industries, you should know it's really super competitive. Like if restaurants, for example, who get tons of reviews, it's really hard for a restaurant to come in and now start going off with reviews when there's somebody who has been established in that town or in that city who might have 150 or 350 reviews now. Designers, it's a different story. It's really very rarely rated, it seems like.
Well, and I think an important point for designers that might be feeling a little antsy right now, like thinking, well, what if everybody else, But the thing is, if you do have, this goes back to photography, but if you have, like Jeffrey does, beautiful photography of your work in your home, as Mike said, you can put that right into your, local page profile. So even though, a consumer might then get a list of 8 designers who all have, beautifully filled out Google, place pages, if you have the photography of your work there that's really lovely, the consumer will immediately, with 8 designers listed on Google's first page, be able to see the work that they're most drawn to. So you really have a way to stand out just through the actual quality or the type of design work that you do. So you don't really have to worry too much about, having 12 designers all of a sudden having a Google, place listing on the first page of Google. So that photography there becomes even more important. And like I think you're saying, Lori, the reviews too, but I really believe if I'm a consumer, the very first thing I'm going to be looking at, right? We all love those pictures. We're looking, at the pictures and seeing, do I like this designer's style? So really, Google, if you will, is sort of like giving you a Pinterest-like platform, but on Google search. When you think about the pictures, right? Everybody on Instagram, and they're creating these style profiles on Instagram or Pinterest. But many more consumers are really searching Google and locally if they're really serious about finding an interior designer. So to me, without a doubt, the very first thing you should be doing as an interior designer is setting up that Google place, like we've just been talking about, and then go to other platforms. But the consumer, for sure, that's moving into Houston is going to search interior designer Houston to see what's out there. I mean, it's just a natural.
Not even search for Houston, as Mike said. You come up. If I made a search interior designer, a local listing comes up because Google kind of knows where you are based on, many different factors. You don't even actually have to be logged in, where it will just feed you automatically your local results.
True. And even when I go onto Google, and I think everybody watching knows this, but when you go onto Google and search anything, you're going to get a different result than I'm going to get, even if we're searching the exact words because of where you're located and where I'm located. So I'm definitely going to get, Houston-centric information back to me because that's what Google, if they think I'm searching something local, it's all going to come back, Houston-related. And the same thing is going to be true for you. So it's just very, very important that to me it's sort of like your home. It's even more important than your website if you think about it, because if you're really wanting more business, it's the consumer searching to hire you. Now, they may go to a site now like Houzz, right, where they can also search by, but they may not know to go to Houzz yet. Not every consumer does. So the easiest thing for a consumer to do, really just the easiest thing, is go to Google, put in interior designer Houston, pop up, and see who comes up.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to do what you're helping everybody find out to do, Lori, today.
It's so true. I mean, we all know, like, Google is the euphemism for search. Like, I'm going to look something up. I'm going to Google it. And no one has yellow pages. I swear, when we do get the yellow pages occasionally now, because you rarely get them, they go immediately into my recycling bin because I haven't looked up anything in the yellow pages in over 10 years.
Yeah, I haven't even touched them. Have you, Jeffrey?
No, I haven't. But what I would recommend is a business practice for interior designers. You should put on their calendar at least twice a year. Just a reminder to say, hey, go look at your Google local listing. You see if there's anything you need to change, massage, and whether you, like Leslie were talking about, put beautiful pictures of your work. It's just something that at least a reminder. I always set up reminders of certain things throughout the year because I will forget. And so I think it's important, both of you are saying, one is how things change, and two is, about your work, how to promote your work. And so I think it's really important to try to set a reminder at least twice a year. Just go look at it, see what it looks like, if there's anything that need to be changed. Of course, you want to update your profile of yourself, So I think it's really important.
I would suggest even looking at it closer than that, because I think if you get in the habit of asking for reviews, or if you use Mike's service, which I assume does some of that automated for you, you really want to stay on top of it if you get a bad review, I would think. You can always go back to that client and ask them, oh, I saw you gave me a bad review. I'm really sorry. What can I do to change your mind? I really don't, I don't want to leave any customer unsatisfied. And you try to resolve some of those issues, and hopefully they might even delete the review because you were very proactive. So I think leaving it for too long might cause you problems down the road, especially as you might get a bad review. And I want to say that again because, or sort of around the same subject, that if you're not asking for good reviews and out of the blue someone does give you a bad review, that's all people will see. Yep. So, you know, if you, and I think he's right, you need 10 good reviews to counterbalance a 1 bad review or more even. So, you know, if you're never asking for reviews and you don't have any on your page, and then all of a sudden, you know, someone gets mad at you, they're going to find you and review you, and it's going to be bad. And that's not that's not what you want out there on the first page of Google. So, right. You know, spending some time and paying attention to that might be really important, even more so as we go forward and people do that. I mean, we've already seen that happen in Yelp. People leave bad reviews for any number of reasons. They just didn't like your personality. And they don't understand how it can affect your business. And I've even heard of lawsuit cases against people who are lying on Yelp. You know, they didn't have, it was an employee left and they're mad, so they give a bunch of bad reviews to the business. This stuff does happen. So paying attention to that, making sure that stuff doesn't happen on your page, on the first page of Google, I think is huge, so important.
I 100% concur with that. I think it's really important to, probably just check in. Me, honestly, like once a day, just quickly. Like we all check in with, Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest or Instagram. Just take another. I mean, it's really more important to check in on your reviews than anything else. You can also have Google Alerts set up. I'm sure probably many of you watching, have Google Alerts set up. But anytime someone mentions your name or company name, if you have a Google Alert set up, it'll send you an email about that. So I have that set up for a lot of different important things, not only for myself but for my clients. So anytime something's happening online around their brand or my own name, I will get an email about that so I can immediately. So to me, that's kind of a fail-safe way, really, to use Google Alerts to check in on what's going on when people are mentioning your company online. So if you do, but bottom line, if you get a bad review and you have a Google Alert set up, and your company name has been used in that review, you're going to get an email about it right away.
Very good point.
Yeah. But the other thing is, if you make it a habit and you make it your home, you were on Instagram yesterday and you took a cute picture, you can upload it. We all do these other things across the web that are fun, but they're instantly gone. Like we might share a cool post about our work or our blog post or whatever. If we put that onto all within Google Local, then there's just this wealth of information that's just about my business and just, pictures and reviews when I do have a customer who might have reviewed me. So there's all of these different things that are coming in, and you have this like really robust page. And then if a bad review comes down the line, you're not so hurt by it because you have this great page that's really got so much content and it's saying so many great things. And you can do what you can to resolve it, but it's not a killer. When you see a page that doesn't have anything and all it has is that bad review, I don't know. I think you're sunk. I don't think anybody would buy from that business. Do you?
True. I agree. And I think as a designer out there, I'm sure some of you are probably thinking, oh my God, another thing to spend 2 hours on. But I think it's a matter of thinking to yourself, because some of you are always going to get business from Google, or you're definitely going to get searched. Most of you know that most of your website traffic, probably your number one referrer, number two, is organic Google search, right? So when you think about that, like when you think about your traffic or your website traffic, and you look at your analytics, and number one referrer is Google organic search, that means that you need to have your local page in place. That tells you that the consumer, that's how they're finding you, Google organic search. And then, whatever number two is Pinterest or Twitter or Facebook or whatever that is, Instagram, and that's all good too. So if you pay, to me, it should flow from your analytics. So if you know that Google is your number one referrer to your site or blog, then you need to pay attention to everything Google. That's where the consumer is. It's actually looking to hire you. If your number one is, like say Pinterest and Facebook, and Google's organic is number three, well, Pinterest and Facebook should be what you're paying attention to, because for some reason, most of your traffic is coming from those two sources. So, the Google Analytics is, free to have on your site. In case you don't know that, you can literally go to, again, just type into your browser Google Analytics, add to my site, those words, and you'll be able to get the code to have Google Analytics on your site. It's that easy. And I'm sure, Lori, if people had questions, you could help them, or Ross could help them, probably another moderator in the community here, to get that uploaded onto the back end of their site. But without analytics, you really don't know, what you're doing. So anyway, I think most of you know that organic, if you do look at them, is going to be the #1 referrer. So when you see that, what Lori and I and Jeffrey and Mike were sharing today is a #1 critical information. If you're nowhere on local, you're just nowhere to the consumer's mind. Even though in your own mind, on your own website, you could have 4 million followers on Pinterest, but the consumer doesn't know you from Adam. It's actually just moved to Houston, let's say, and looking for a designer. See, they don't know that. You know that, but they don't. So that's why this is so critical, I feel.
Yeah. I'm not saying people don't get business from Twitter, but how many people go to, on Pinterest, but how many people go to Pinterest and search, I want to find a local interior designer?
No, we don't. I think there's a lot of, there's definitely a lot of consumers on Pinterest, but that's the point. Most traffic to most blogs and websites, #1 referrer is organic Google search. And that you have to have your local, even Mike was saying, you don't even have to have a personal profile. You don't have to use Google social network. We like it. We use it. But as a designer watching, if you're thinking, I just can't do that right now, you don't have to. So don't worry. All you have to do is just go claim your local page. That's what today's Hangout is about. That's it.
Yeah.
Claim your local page, fix it up, make it look beautiful with the pictures you want on it, get reviews on it, and just start there. You don't have to do anything else.
Yeah, I would even say above and above having social media networks, having, if you have Twitter and you don't have your Google local, that's crazy. You should have the Google local first and worry about Twitter later.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Google local is definitely the #1 place to start, and then go from there as to what you like and where you feel you're going to, what your goals and objectives are, because maybe you don't need more business right now, right? So, you may not really be looking to pull in a whole lot more business, which would be great, but, there's quite a few people that are busy, so you're not really looking for that. You're looking more for brand awareness. So maybe the second place you go to for brand awareness is Pinterest, because that's where, really home decor consumers hanging out. They're also obviously on Facebook, but you have to pay to promote on Facebook to the consumer. So, you just have to think about what your particular goals are right now, and those obviously change over time. Maybe you need a few new customers, and then you're done with that, and then you switch over and do some, more work on Pinterest. So just think about that from that standpoint. But anyway, I think this has been a great convo. And Jeffrey, do you have anything else to add on your end as a designer?
I think it's just really important right now is just not to overwhelm yourself, but really, really most importantly is really take advantage of the Google local listing. Really take advantage of that, and just kind of just continue to monitor it as well. So I think it just we should need to be aware, educate ourselves, educate others that really take that opportunity, because we're all business owners, we're trying to make a living, we're trying to get our name out. So just really take that opportunity and just get on with it.
I think now is the time too. I would say that to the designers out there listening, because I think that because no one else is doing it, you have a huge advantage. Whenever I see that no one else is doing it and where it's listed, if I see it's on first page of Google and no one else is doing it, I instantly am like, opportunity. This is an opportunity for people to stand out. This is an opportunity for someone to come in their local area, have a ton of pictures, have a lot of content, have a lot of reviews. They are going to knock it out of the park, I think. So I really don't necessarily think that it's something you want to wait too long to do. I mean, you might feel overwhelmed with all of this information, and maybe you want to hire someone. But I think it's so important that you actually maybe listening, you're the one who actually took the time to see the video. You have the opportunity over a lot of the designers in your local area to really step it up and claim it and do a lot with it that the designers who aren't seeing this video aren't going to have. So I think it's, you know, they might hear about it, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as it becomes to maps. When, you know, we were told that, you know, eventually it could be that you search into your designer, into your phone, you talk into your phone, and one listing comes up, and it's going to be the person who has the most reviews. Yeah. As you said, as Mike said, more and more. I just went through yesterday and today the state of the web, and it's a great PowerPoint presentation. It's on my Google page, my personal page, and you know, the tablet searches, and we all know this, but tablet searches and phone searches are just going through the roof, and they know that more and more people are buying these devices over laptops, over desktop and computers. And so as social web gets integrated into our tablets and into our phone and into our Google Maps, it's just going to become that much more important that you have done this.
And really, as you think about that over the years, you know, our computer usage, the type of computer we're using is getting smaller and smaller, right? So now we're down to the mobile, right? Tablet, now mobile, and we all know what's next, you know, and we don't like it, or maybe we don't have to, but, you know, eventually we'll probably be wearing an embedded chip somehow, you know, our children will. And that embedded chip will transmit information, even possibly to, I mean, this is weird, I know, but, you know, it can transmit information to our brain. So we may not want to think about that future yet, but I do believe that, you know, that's where it's going eventually, so that we all have this information, you know, just right at our fingertips, literally at our fingertips, or in our clothes, you know. Certainly it's already getting into our homes, so we may hate it or not, but find it a convenience. But, you know, our children being born today, this is, you know, this is what they're growing up with. This isn't going to be anything weird to them, like it might be to us right now. This is what's the new normal is going to be. So,
you know, that's funny, because I was talking, after you and I talked about this, I was talking to this other designer about this, and they're like, well, the designers I know are kind of more celebrity designers. They get a lot of their clients based on referrals. And I said, you know, what I really see happening is that, you know, people are getting very review conscious, especially if we're buying on Amazon. Even, you know, the baby boomers are very, you know, they're review conscious. And so I envision that, you know, a young designer who's very tech savvy gets all of their friends to give them reviews. They've got a lot of pictures, maybe even pictures they found on Pinterest of your designs, who knows? But they've got a ton of pictures. They've got lots of commentary on their site. They've got lots of, you know, lots of great reviews. And they might not get the job, but they'll get the appointment. And now all of a sudden you went from, you know, definitely getting the referral to, you know, maybe someone else gets the job. And while I honestly, she didn't believe me, but once I had said that, she said, oh my gosh, the designer I'm thinking of just got this huge, huge job, and a quarter of it was given to a young designer because they found her online. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I want to say, I think some of you know that last year I was part of the Houston Decorative Center's fall market, and I had a panel of 4 designers joining me for that. And one of them was Paloma Contreras, who many of you know as La Dolce Vita blog, and her blog just won Best Overall Design Blog at the Design Bloggers Conference. And she happens to live here in Houston. And Paloma started out as a Spanish teacher in her career, and started out building up a blog because she also loved design. And so in her panel, she started talking to the audience last fall about how she came to, you know, become an interior designer and get all these jobs. And it was because of her use of her blog and Instagram and the pictures and everybody commenting and then people seeing that. And just what you're saying, Lori, and then people wanting her to do their homes, even though she does not have a degree in interior design, which is incredibly talented if you know, see what she's doing. So she actually launched her own design firm just last year. She was in Houston, and she is so busy. And so she's a great example of a, you know, really wonderful talent who has used social media and all of what we're talking about today to launch, you know, a fabulous interior design career. And a great example of that, maybe more a senior designer who may have many, many more jobs, but really isn't getting all of the job opportunities that Salome is because they're not using social media in any way, and certainly not on Google Local. So that's, I think what you're saying is exactly right. That very savvy, designer doesn't, not really so much about age, but, savvy to what we're saying here.
Yeah.
And getting at that, so it's really not about age whatsoever.
No, it really isn't. I mean, I've seen, actually, people who got it the most are you and Susan Sarah, and I think that you could say that you were picking it up because you're web savvy. You have to be web savvy. You have to care about where your search results are coming, and it's something that I think many people get a headache even thinking about. It's like one of those I just don't even want to think of it. It's like talking to your accountant. You just don't want to do it. You don't want to sit and think about search results because it's so geeky, techy.
It's really very easy, to make it really easy for any interior designer just looking out right now. Just go to your search result, go to your analytics on your blogger website. Look under referrals, referral sites. You're going to see it right there. Just click, and it's going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 where your traffic is coming from. You see that? Say, okay, if my traffic is coming from Google Organic Search, do what you need to do to maximize your attractiveness on Google, whatever that is, because that's where your traffic is coming from. If number 2 is Pinterest, do what you can do to maximize your attractiveness on Pinterest. So it's really pretty easy.
Yeah.
Just, you don't really have to make it into something too difficult or time-consuming because, we don't have that much time. That's all there is to it.
We don't, but I think that there are a lot of designers who do really well because they do focus on these things first. They've got their Pinterest or their blog really, really perfect. Now, if you are a designer out there and you haven't been paying attention to this stuff in a while, your site's really old, something's going on there, you don't really know too much about social, you want to build up your business, maybe there's a lull. I do recommend hiring. I honestly do. I think that when you're too busy and you are overwhelmed or you just can't wrap your head around it and you need someone technical, I really do. Even for myself, I hire out for the things I can't do. And friends of mine tell me all the time, it's not a problem if money can solve it, and that's true. It's not you can have a health problem, you can have things that money can't solve. It's not a problem if money can solve it, and if you can maybe hire someone to do some social media for you, or you can hire Mike or one of his colleagues, because he said he might be really busy and can't do everyone, but he can possibly pass you off to somebody that he would recommend. So it's one of those situations where if you really get to the point where you've hit a wall and you really don't want to do it, I recommend hiring out.
And I want to say on that, there are many professionals who can be hired on an hourly basis.
Yeah. Like you, Leslie, you can for social media, if I needed help or if I needed you just spend an hour a week on my stuff and I wanted to contract that out, that's possible, right?
Absolutely. And I do that myself with other professionals. Like if I need specific help in one area, I'll just ask them, how much do you charge? And sometimes I'll have a minimum, like 2 or 3 hours. I have to decide yes or no whether I want to do that. But I've done that many, many times over my business career where I've subcontracted with other professionals to get a specific type of expertise I need that I don't have. So, so whether it's social media or SEO or Google Local or any of these things, don't get overwhelmed by the cost either. These things do not have to cost that much money. You just have to actually do them and schedule them and execute on them. That's really it. Don't make it too difficult. It's not.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks very much, everybody. We went way over on time, but this is a huge subject, and I really think it's so important that I wanted to spend the extra time on it because I think every single designer in the country should be watching this video because it's really that important. And I hope that you learned a lot and you were able to, figure out Google Local a little bit. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Visit us on interiordesignCommunity.com and Interior Design Community on Google+. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.